Hello, my name is Ivan Garrido. I'm from Brazil. I teach international business at Unicinos, a university in the south of Brazil. Before starting the video with my lecture to attend the week 4 activity, I'd like to contextualize it. It's a business strategy class for a master course where I have around 6 to 8 students, and the specific subject is dynamic capabilities. I prepared around 10 slides to this class. During the class, I will try to contextualize the subject. I'm going to expose the subject, dynamic capabilities. I will conclude with a kind of summary of the content, and I will finish the class proposing a task for the students. I'm going to start the class in the next slides, okay? Let's go. Hello everyone, good morning. Let's start our class. Today we are going to study one of the most interesting and up-to-date subject in strategy. We are going to talk about dynamic capabilities. We'll learn different aspects about dynamic capabilities. What is it? What is dynamic capabilities? What is the relevance of dynamic capabilities to a company achieve a sustainable competitive advantage? What is the difference between dynamic capabilities and other kind of capabilities, or between dynamic capabilities and ordinary capabilities? But before talking about dynamic capabilities, let's try to understand why researchers and executives are studying it. How we arrived until here, until dynamic capabilities. Let's start contextualizing the subject. Uh, But I'd like to say that to finish this class today, I will propose a very interesting work group where we will apply the concept of dynamic capabilities by looking at the history of Harley Davidson. Okay, you can follow the class through the slides I have sent you. Let's start. Remember, dynamic capability is not an isolated subject. Dynamic capability has a history. Actually, we are studying business strategies in our classes, and the main goal of business strategy is to understand why and how companies get a competitive advantage, how companies compete better than other companies. In business strategy, we have a lot of questions that guide the students on it. For example, why some companies have better results than others? How do companies compete? How do companies formulate their strategies? Which elements lead to a competitive advantage? How can a company maintain its competitive advantage for a long range? I'd like to highlight one of these questions. How can a company maintain its competitive advantage for a long range? It's a crucial question, especially in a fast-changing world. World and business are changing faster than ever. Um, as we have studied in our previous classes, there are different approaches in business strategy. It means there are different views trying to explain the competitive advantage of the firm. I believe two of these approaches are most important. They are complementary and contradictory at the same time. Uh, we are talking about industry-based view and resource-based view. Let's go over them quickly. I believe it will help us to understand how the dynamic capabilities concept comes up. Let's start with industry-based view. Industry-based view has this name because it's based on comprehending the influence of industry environment on the company's strategies. Over this approach, the industry environment will determine the strategy and consequently the company performance. Based on this view, A company has to analyze the industry and find out how to position itself in this industry in order to seize potential opportunities or reduce threats. Pay attention. We are saying that the outside aspects will determine the strategy and performance. It's an outside-in view. One of the most important authors in this view, as we already studied, is Michael Porter. Okay, now let's change our point of view. Let's move on to resource-based view. Let's go. RBV, or resource-based view, is a completely different view from industry-based view. RBV is an inside-out approach. But what does it mean? The company resource and capabilities instead of the industry will determine the strategy and the competitive advantage of the firm. It means the inside aspects of the firm will determine the strategy. It's different from industry-based view where outside aspects determine the strategy. For many authors, these are opposite views, but for others, and I have to say for me too, these are complementary views. I do believe a company has to sense the environment, the industry, to find out opportunities and threats, but the company also has to be worried about its resources and capabilities. The company will seize the opportunities or avoid threats through its resources and capabilities. Okay, and Jay Barney is one of the most important authors on this approach. And now let's see a little more about RBV. Once dynamic capability was born here. Dynamic capability was born inside the RBV approach. But it's not all types of resources and capabilities that lead to a competitive advantage. Only the VRIO resources and capabilities have this potential. But what are VRIO resources and capabilities? They are resources valuable, rare, costly to imitate, and likely to be organized to capture value. That means these are resources and capabilities that differentiate companies from each other. They lead to a competitive advantage. But it's not so simple. Did you remember the question how to maintain a competitive advantage in a fast-changing world? So, but what is the problem with the VRIO resources and capabilities? The problem is that it's a static view. This is the critical point. See, if the world or the market is changing fast, the resources and capabilities that a company have today cannot guarantee the future performance or the future competitivity. For example, Spotify has changed the way you buy music. What happened with the old record companies? Netflix has changed the way you watch movies today. Suddenly, companies find out some of their VRIO resources actually are ordinary resources, especially in a long-term view. And here we arrived in dynamic capabilities. Uh, According to TC, dynamic capability is the firm ability to integrate, build, and reconfigure internal and external competencies to address rapidly changing environments. It means the capacity to change, develop, integrate, and reconfigure resources. The capacity to create new business, to reinvent their business. Do you think Blockbuster had this capability to face Netflix? Where is Blockbuster today? Let's go deeper in dynamic capabilities to understand its dimensions. Just for a didactical approach, TC has separated dynamic capabilities in three capacities or dimensions. They are sense, seize, and reconfiguring. Sense means the capacity to find out and shape new opportunities. Seize means to address the opportunities, to develop or adjust a business plan or a business model to address a new opportunity. And reconfiguring is the ability to reconfigure the company's resources to exploit the opportunities. The companies can develop, modify, or integrate resources. So it appears to be an abstract concept. Sometimes it's hard to exemplify a dynamic capability. It's not only an incremental change in your business, like an incremental product innovation or something like that. For example, a restaurant start work with delivery service. It's a new opportunity, but it's not a radical change. It's not a huge change. But when you talk about Airbnb, Uber, Apple, or Netflix, Spotify, we can see how these companies have promoted change in the way people buy and use their new products, their new business. We are talking here, in this case, about dynamic capabilities. But before we explore deeper the dynamic capabilities concept and examples, let's try to see dynamic capabilities in a practice activity. I have a proposal for you. Let's work in groups of 4 students. We'll get 2 groups today, and we have 2 tasks now. First, last week I gave you 2 papers to read to this class. Based on these papers, please answer the questions in the handout. And next, watch the video about Harley Davidson and try to identify along different moments of its history some ordinary capabilities and some dynamic capabilities. Try to verify how these capabilities are related to the competitive advantage. And next class, each group will present the work and will discuss the concept. Okay? And so that's all for today. See you next class. Bye bye.